So yeah, my name is Eric Butler. I sing and play guitar in a band called Mom Jeans. We're like a rock, emo, indie, punk, whatever kind of band type thing. I don't know.
Whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it. We play loud and fast and heartfelt music, and we like to jump around and dance and have a really good time. And yeah, we're coming to Australia this upcoming March, and we're really excited. It's our second time coming out. Our last time was about 3 years ago, and we had just about as much fun as I think is humanly possible for us to have on tour. So we're really looking forward to coming back, and just like, yeah, super stoked. We had a great time last time.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Eric.
Of course, thanks for having me.
As you say, man, like Mum Jeans are headed to Australia for a run of shows next March, starting on March 7th in Perth, before taking in Adelaide, Sydney and Brisbane, and finishing in Melbourne on March the 12th. So what sorts of delightful surprises have you got in store for us, mate?
I don't know, nothing too crazy, honestly. It's more just it's been so long. I mean, it's just, especially right now, but in general, it's so hard getting across an ocean and trying to play gigs and stuff like that. So more or less trying to just give whoever manages to make it to these shows their money's worth as much as we can, and make sure that we take advantage of the time and just kind of play as many songs as we can in the amount of time that we have, and just really try to, because I don't know, we try to treat every tour like it's the last one that we're going to get to do, and we try and like leave it all out on the field in that respect. And so we're gonna give it our best, and we're gonna play loud, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna play a whole bunch of songs from our new record that we just put out, and a bunch of old ones too, because we don't play any favorites really along the catalog. So we're gonna practice like as much of our songs as we possibly can, and just be ready to take requests. Pretty much that's our goal.
Very cool. And as we say, mate, like it's been about 3 years since you were here last time. So what's different about the band and your live show this time around to when you were last year?
I don't know, honestly. I think if anything, the last time that we were in Australia was kind of a cool eye-opening experience for us. Just we've always been pretty particular about, gear and guitars and like amps and stuff and what we like to use. But when we came to Australia last time, about 3 years ago, we kind of said, fuck it, we're just gonna, like use whatever. I don't care. Like, we're just gonna have a good time. Like, I'm spending the week in the same pair of swim trunks, and I'm not changing them, and I'll use whatever. And I think with that, we played those shows, and we just tried to have as much fun as possible on stage, and just tried to, rather than focusing so hard on how we sounded, just tried to perform really well. So I think we've really come into our own a lot more as performers since we were in Australia last. Like, we know how to handle a big stage a little bit better, and we know how to fill up that space, and how to we have a little bit more practice, I guess, involving the crowd and doing more crowd work and jumping and hand movement and stuff like that, where in the past we were used to being kind of one of those bands that we play, and we, like, the crowd does what the crowd wants to do if they're moshing and crowd surfing. But I think it's very like involved, I think, between the band and the audience now. So I think the set is like really engaging, and hopefully even, if you tend to lean towards one of our albums as like a favorite, and you don't really care about the others, you hopefully don't have to wait any longer than 2 or 3 songs to hear one that you're like really stoked about.
So basically, if they enjoyed your last tour, they're gonna fucking love this one.
Oh yeah, and hopefully if they missed the last one, they're gonna feel glad that they came, and hopefully there's gonna be people that are bummed that they missed this one, because I think, yeah, it's hard for me to imagine a better situation as far as like a international tour. Like I said, there was just something about the vibe the last time we were there. It just feels very I think maybe we were talking about it, like Australia is around like the same age as like California is. Like, a lot of the buildings were built around the same time, a lot of the infrastructure was built around the same time, and so like a lot of Australia to us looks like Northern California. So we just feel very at home, but it's like different enough to be fresh and exciting, but like it's still there's not like a language barrier, and there's like a lot of like cultural stuff that's like not super different. So I think it's like a really like great comfort zone. So yeah, I think it's as far as like seeing a band after they've undergone long flights and a lot of traveling and not maybe necessarily getting to see them play in their best of sorts, I think Australia kind of gets the better end of that, because like we're always in a great mood whenever we're playing Australia. Like nobody's ever bummed. So I'm really excited to kind of show that off, because even here it's a mixed bag. Like you have good days and you have bad days. You're not always you don't always have the most energy or have the best like mindset. And so being able to, I don't know, confidently offer people just like your best self is really nice. And we've kind of gotten to a place as a band where that's like really important, and we're really pushing that. So
Sure. Yeah. And your latest album, Sweet Tooth, came out back in February of this year, mate. So how's the reception been? Fans like it?
it's been awesome. I think, yeah, it's been pretty good so far. I'm not sure how far it's reaching beyond, the fan base that we've managed to foster up until this point. But everybody who has kind of like been with us from the get-go seems to understand it and to like it and see where we were trying to go and what we were trying to do. And I think yeah, it was really received in the way that we feel very seen, we feel very understood. And like I think we were almost in the past probably like scared to like try and make an album that like made a statement or like had any kind of like message or like goal behind it, because when you do that, there's fear of like, being misunderstood or, people not necessarily like getting it. And I think it's very validating that people see exactly what we were trying to do and like they get it. And for the overwhelming majority of people like seem to like it and support it and fuck with it, and wish there was more, radio hit 2000s, early 2000s worship music coming out right now, which is kind of how I feel too. Like I like that we're getting back to the glory days a little bit right now. It's fun.
Mhm. And look, that album actually moves away from the more emo style of music on previous albums and heads more in, like you were saying, like a late 1990s, early 2000s sort of pop
Yeah.
rock and pop direction. So what made you decide to do that after a couple of albums?
I think it's like a lot of decisions, like a lot of things pointing in one direction. Like if I had to sum it up, just us getting older, thinking about the future, like in hindsight, like 6 years or so may not seem like super duper long time, but like, we were teenagers when we started this band, and now we're looking at 30, not super far away. We have, people in our band and in our crew who are turning 30, and there's a little bit of reflection and thinking about the journey that we've made as a band up till now and like kind of where we want to go in the future. And I think it felt like the right time to pivot the sound and I think have it reflect a little bit of more of not only where we are now as far as like a departure to our sound and like our musical goals back in like 2016 or 2015, and possibly thinking about where we want to take it and setting ourselves up for success in the future. Because I think, like I said earlier, about like we try to treat every tour like it's our last tour and just like have as much fun every time. Like I think we try to treat everything like that, and every album feels make or break for us. And we feel like if it's not received the way that we want it to, we don't know what the future of the band is, because we really care a lot about preserving, I guess, like the aspect of fun and the aspect of like this band being exciting to us as individuals. And we're very protective, I guess, over, not doing things that are going to make it worse or less cool. And so I think when you're keeping all of those things in mind, it kind of pointed us in a direction where we were like, well, let's try, rather than just 100% being, we're going to do us, make an album that we're happy with, that scratches all our itches. Like, let's try and think about a big picture. What is popular? Like what does well on the radio? What's doing well in the streaming? And I guess take a little bit more of an active approach into understanding like why people like our music and like why they might come back. And I think most bands and like most artists like probably have a point where they think about that and like they want to try doing that, and the possibility of like, oh, maybe getting to like play on TV or like have a song that really pops off on a Spotify playlist, or get one of these big reviews that people are used to hearing about and knowing about. it doesn't seem as far out of reach as it did when you're making your first debut album and you want to create something that I guess doesn't shut off those possibilities. So like making a more radio friendly, I guess like more poppy album was something that we wanted to do. And it ended up being, I guess the direction that it ended up being specifically like late 90s, early 2000s, like radio punk music was because that's what we grew up with when we first really started getting into not even necessarily alternative music, but like when we were starting to pick up guitars and starting to pick up drum kits and instruments for the first time. Like we were listening to Blink 182, we were listening to Green Day, we were listening to Third Eye Blind, we were listening to, you know, Fountains of Wayne, we were listening to Avril Lavigne, we were listening to Counting Crows and Bare Naked Ladies. And you try to think about what is the unifying thing between all of these bands, like what makes Foo Fighters and Bare Naked Ladies like similar. It's the fact that they like have great hooks, great choruses, simple songs, immaculate songwriting, and like cool guitar players who like play loud. And it was like, and that felt very up our alley, and it felt very authentic, I think, to us, because all of those things are like very us. So we kind of approached it of like, yeah, why not, you know, make a late 90s, early 2000s, like alt rock worship that just feels like it feels like that CD that you made for yourself, or, you know, depending on your age group, it may have been a cassette, right? But it's got, and it's just your 14 favorite songs, no rhyme or reason to it at all. And it's just, that's what you put on in your Walkman or your tape player as you're like sitting on the bus to school. And that was, and Sweet Tooth to us was like that CD or like that playlist, which is just like your favorite 10 songs or your favorite 13 songs that you are your go-to songs that you just want to have in your back pocket and kind of scratch each itch that you might have when you want to listen to music throughout the day. And it kind of worked that way for us. At least it's like I get a lot of satisfaction listening to it from beginning to end. And I think it flows in the way that we were hoping it would.
Cool. So how do you go, like, when you do an upset list now, like with the older material and the newer stuff that is that little bit different? Like, do you find it hard to get a cohesive set list going with the different styles?
Not really. Like at least from a technical standpoint, like we don't really do any crazy tunings like a lot of bands who kind of play a similar style of music. Like most of our stuff is in standard. Like we're not swapping guitars super often, so it's pretty easy to just play whatever song we want right after whatever song we want. And I was really happy with the set list that we had on the last tour. It felt like you know, no matter which album you were there to see, you never had to wait like more than a couple songs to like hear a song from the era of the band that you really liked the most. So there was like, we played most of the new record, and we played most of the Best Buds record that everybody really likes. We got a couple Puppy Love songs off in there too. And I didn't really see much out there about people complaining that they didn't hear their favorite song. You know, obviously you can't play everything, but we play for about an hour and 15 minutes. And I think that that's a certainly fair amount of time when all your songs are like 3 minutes long.
Not a bad effort.
When all your songs are 3 minutes and you have a nice guitar that stays in tune pretty well, it's not hard to just rip through, like 10 or 15 songs in, 45 minutes. So.
Cool. All right, Eric. Well, thanks very much for your time today, mate. It's been a pleasure. Mum Jean's
absolutely
in next March, starting March the 7th. So we look forward to seeing you over here, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.